Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am here with another installment of 31 Days of Witchcraft, hosted by Heather Carter and running all of May 2020. If you haven't already checked it out, you can click a link below to go to Heather's channel and see all of the prompts in one place. And of course, don't forget to click on the tag itself, because then you'll find lots of other channels participating in the conversation. So, we're at day 27, getting towards the end. And day 27's prompt is, do you use prayer in your personal practice? If not, do you do anything similar to prayer? So, do I use prayer in my personal practice? No. I don't think of myself as praying. I don't think of myself as saying prayers. It's not language that I would ever use to describe anything that I do. And for me, when I think of the term prayer, it is very much something that is bound up with deity for me. And that's not to say that I don't think, a person who, like me, does not work with deity couldn't pray, or that there aren't ways of praying that don't involve deity or don't involve God or gods. But just based on, my upbringing and the kind of context in which I have learned about prayer, deity is immediately where my mind goes. So because I don't work with deity, I kind of can't wrap my head around working with prayer, if that makes sense, or at least not using that language. So there's that. Do I use prayer? No. If not, do you do anything similar to prayer is the second part of the question. And this is perhaps more interesting because it, to me, is kind of asking about whether there are things in my practice that might serve similar functions as prayer would, which then means thinking about what is the function of prayer, which is a big question and not one that I, going to expound upon here too much. But to have something to talk around, I went to my good friend dictionary.com and I looked up prayer. And I read through a whole bunch of definitions of prayer and pray and so on. And, I was trying to find something, okay, if I don't pray, do I do anything similar? What if I can find some functions of prayer here, are there some that I would say are a part of my practice? And I would say yes. So there were lots of definitions of prayer, actually, a lot. And that's just for a noun. There was also other, uses of the word. But the most relevant definition that I could find for prayer to my practice would be, and this is a quote, a spiritual communion with God or an object of worship, as in supplication, thanksgiving, adoration, or confession, end quote. So some of that language I would say is applicable to my practice and others not. So in terms of the first part of the definition, a spiritual communion with God or an object of worship, I, as a pantheist, don't think in terms of object of worship. This feels very non-monist to me. It feels very separating things out in ways that I don't quite do in my understanding of divinity or the sacred. So I don't think in terms of object of worship, but I do actually really like the first part of that, which is the language of spiritual communion. And I can absolutely think of components of my practice as spiritual communion with place, spiritual communion with the environment that I'm in, spiritual communion with the energies of elements, spiritual communion with energies of particular animals or plants even. So, or maybe even with the environment in a general sort of way. So, spiritual communion, yes, that is a part of my practice for sure. Then we get into the latter part with a list of examples. I certainly would not say supplication is part of my practice, but thanksgiving, absolutely. And one of the most kind of common forms of prayer that I, grew up with and was, a very common part of my day-to-day life was Thanksgiving prayers before meals, for example. And so I certainly would say that I do things that are similar to this, including around food and around meals, and cultivating a sense of gratitude for the food that I have, gratitude to the folks who grow it and whose labor makes it possible for me to have that food, gratitude to the environment for providing, the plants that make up my diet, for example. So absolutely, Thanksgiving, and it's probably obvious, but not just for food, but having a gratitude practice more generally. And for a while I did do daily gratitude journaling and things like this. I'm not very good at daily practices, but I do frequently and fairly regularly, engage in some kind of active gratitude. And that might just be, sitting on the back deck with my coffee in the morning, acknowledging the shade of the tree that I'm under and the other creatures that I'm sharing the space with, and gratitude for the home I get to live in, and so on and so on. Or it might be more active, like journaling, something like that. But gratitude is definitely a part of my practice, which could be something similar to a prayer, saying grace, for example. And then the last two in the definition are adoration and confession. Confession, definitely not. No. I grew up Catholic. No. No, confession is not part of my practice. Adoration, maybe. I suppose insofar as adoration could be something like expressing reverence or awe or respect towards, what the definition calls like object of worship, but towards sacredness or towards the divine, then yes, I would say. As a pantheist, that can absolutely be part of my practice as well. So, do I use prayer? No. Do I do anything similar to prayer? I would say perhaps I have some practices that are similar to some functions of prayer that work for me in the context of my belief system. So that's my answer. I will leave it there. I'm keen to see what other folks have to say on this question. And of course, as always, if you'd like to participate in the discussion, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm really enjoying seeing everyone's thoughts, and I'm trying to keep up with the comments as best I can. But I'm, of course, always happy to have those chats with you. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.